Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Youth Ministries podcast. It's an honor to welcome you to the show today, and I want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to join us for this episode. Today, we are very honored and privileged to be joined by our friend, Brother Andrew Cox. He is the student pastor at the Pentecostals of Alexandria in Louisiana, and he has been doing that since 2012. Andrew, along with his wife Danielle, they enjoy life to its fullest with their two daughters, Emma Claire and Grayson, 5 years old and 3 months old. He is the former district youth president for the Louisiana district. We are super honored to have him on the podcast today. And today he's going to be talking to us about the subject, longevity in youth ministry. And I will say that beyond even his tenure at the POA, he has been in youth ministry for 13 years. And so he is certainly a seasoned vet. He is very qualified to be talking to us on this subject. Andrew, it's an honor to have you on the podcast today. Why don't you go ahead and greet all of our listeners, and thanks again for joining us.
Absolutely. Super excited to be with you today. Matt, you're a great friend, and I thank you for that. Just having known you the last few years has been an honor, getting to know you and watching you as a leader and learning from you. The great stuff that you're doing. Super thankful just to have learned from that, and then to be doing this today. Really excited. So hopefully I can help someone somewhere. Kind of my story, Matt, is I hated the idea of doing student ministry. Y'all have asked me to talk on longevity in student ministry, and as you mentioned, I've been doing it for 13 years now, and I would have never thought I would have been in student ministry that long. I didn't really enjoy anything really about student ministry, the idea of it, leading it in any of those manners. I just didn't see myself doing it. But God had things, I guess you would say, on his plate that he wanted me to do. And so I've been doing those things. And now that I'm coming to an end or nearing my end, I love student ministry. I love students, and I don't want to quit. But it has been fun on the longevity of it. I really, it hasn't felt that long. Because I'm high strung. A lot of energy, have to always be doing something. Typical, a student model needs something to do, something fresh, something new. So I think that's helped me a lot. I think one of the things what has helped me or what has benefited me is always trying to connect with who they are as an individual, instead of trying to get them to mold to who I am as a person. Just, I'm kind of a chameleon of sorts. So if you want to go play basketball, I can go play basketball. Or if you want to go read a book, I know it's weird, I can go read a book. I'm a book nerd. Great book recommendation if anybody is a book nerd out there. Michael Hyatt wrote a book that is fantastic on a vision-driven leader. Fantastic read if you haven't read it. But anyway, there's my book nerd coming out in me.
So just to clarify, over your tenure as a youth pastor for 13 years or being in student ministry, you just have like these corporate book reading sessions with students, or what?
Well, not necessarily that we all go to a coffee shop, because I'm a tea drinker, and read books. But I do have a nucleus of students, which is intriguing to me, the amount of students out there that love to read, that we're constantly brainstorming, or I'll share books. I have one guy, he'll come in and he knows he can just come in. I have you can see it actually in the back is a whole bookshelf, and he can come in and borrow any book. The only requirement is that he brings it back. So it's not like a whole student ministry, we're a book club.
I was going to say, I've never employed that as a youth pastor. I've never just, hey, let's go read books together. But maybe I should start. I don't know.
Well, I think it's back again though. That's probably what has kept me in the mode for that long. Is the point I was getting at is there's something about every student that I find that I wind up liking. So it keeps you young no matter as they age out, a new group comes in, and it's really fun. Like, for instance, for example, right now, this is so terrible. We got a new hobby shop in town that is around football cards, baseball cards, basketball cards, Pokemon cards. Well, I have friends. We're all older guys, but we're taking students to the card shop because we like cards, and so we're showing them our bad habits of buying cards. So you're connecting with the student, but it's also, fulfilling something when you were a student that which you loved. So I think, it's been fun evolving with students, but staying yourself, if that makes sense. I love being in the woods, so I'll bring students to the woods, and I find that the same things that I like to do, if you'll spend time with them, you'll learn that they like to do it. Like, for instance, I have one guy, he's a college athlete, he's a college baseball player. Well, I love hitting, so we'll go hit, occasionally together, hit baseballs, and I'm older now, so I'm 37, so not as fluid as I used to be, or as limber as I used to be. But we were hitting a few months ago, and I hit a really good one, and he hadn't yet hit one that good, and it was a way of connecting with him that the old man still has it.
Well, one of the questions, and you've kind of already started to unpack it, I guess, what has it been that has kept you in youth ministry for these full 13 years? Of course, you talked, you hit on God had other plans, so the will of God certainly plays a part. Also, it sounds like the uniqueness of youth ministry a little bit, that you're dealing with, students that are, at times can be quirky, and they're kind of becoming adults themselves and kind of learning the ropes of life. So the uniqueness of youth ministry. Are there any other things that you would say have kept you in youth ministry? And maybe even a broader question, what are some of the differences in your mind between, youth ministry and just general church ministry? And maybe that's another thing that has kept you interested in it.
Yeah. So, Matt, I would think probably what has kept me, probably the most pivotal thing that has kept me, is watching a student come into junior high ministry, because I oversee, fortunately I have great help, but I oversee our college, our high school, and our junior high ministries. And I have great coordinators that coordinate each of those. But what has been really rewarding for me, has kept me, is seeing a sixth grader evolve as a person going to college. That whole process, you marry them, and then they come on and start helping you in leadership. I don't think there's anything more rewarding. I think, probably we would dress the word up as discipleship. For me, it's just, we're great friends, and the friendships that I've developed over these years is staggering. I just had a guy today that was just today text me. This is terrible too. So we just went through a hurricane. I get in a bunch of terrible predicaments because I just love students. So we just came out of a hurricane. His internet connection is still not reestablished. So he asked if he could come to my house and sit in the driveway and download an update for his game that we play together, so he could hotspot tonight, so he could game tonight. But that's our relationship, and he's actually a leader now in student ministry. But just being able to see their development, we dress it up as the word discipleship. To me, it's friendship. And in those moments, in the big moments in life, you have that respect from them, that permission from them, that you can really guide who they are. And that's a very serious thing for me. And you can position them. To me, it's very important that I'm seeking the mind of Christ, and when I'm speaking into their lives. And so this guy's actually like a little brother to me. That's how close we've gotten connected. But just seeing them evolve. And I'm dealing with another guy right now, the great guy, a rough lifestyle coming up, but really didn't have a lot of home support. But he trusted, I guess you could look at me as a father figure in his life, and he trusted it. And now he's got an awesome story, just a wonderful story. I have a young lady that Danielle and I have kind of gone through life with, and just a wonderful story that she didn't have any home support, but she trusted us, and just her story is amazing now. So I think that's what's allowed the longevity to happen. Of course, I'm a real passionate guy anyway, and I love investing into people. I love getting into the details with people. I'm a problem solver by nature, so a problem is something that I look forward to, not from a position of, oh yeah, great, another problem, but there's opportunity to be better if we can make the right choices. Right. So,
well, let me, it sounds like you're talking about almost like being a big kid at heart in a sense, channeling your inner student, even though, like you said, you're 37. So, let's kind of shift a little bit. Let's talk about this age gap, because I'm sure for some, and I know that I'm nearly 29, so, got a few more years left in the tank for sure, I would say. But even me, sometimes I feel like the challenge of connecting with the really young ones, or just the trends of culture in youth culture these days, I don't always feel like I'm as trendy as I used to be. So, I guess, how have you managed to maintain a strong connection as their leader, even though you are getting further along in years than they are? How do you channel that inner teenager?
Yeah, great question. I'm not sure I do a great job of it from a perspective of their culture and me embracing their culture, or all the new words. And this got me in trouble one night. I was speaking, and I realized right near the end of the message, I thought I'd done a really good job, and I realized they hadn't connected at all. So I made a big mistake after church, and I asked a few students. I said, "Hey, what are a few words that y'all are using today?" Trying to think, well, next time I speak next week, I'll incorporate some of these words. Well, they trust me as a leader and as their pastor, so they start opening up on these words. And I don't always go research like I should. So next week, I incorporated one of the words that they had told me into my message. I immediately had buy-in from them, but it was from a terrible perspective. I think being me in my unique, crazy way is what has allowed me to identify with them in the world in which they live, because right now a lot of people are looking to unique individuals or people who are just being themselves. And so I pondered on that, and I was like, I decided, okay, I'm just going to be me, after I made the big, terrible mistake using a word that I had no idea. I should have looked it up.
To share the word, but maybe you really can't. You always have to cross-reference Urban Dictionary before you throw these words in.
Yeah. So after that, I told myself, okay, well, you know what's safe, and you know what you did as a student. So do that and just be you. God created you. You don't have to go recreate yourself, but kind of, put some flavor in it. So I went back to some things that I did. I do the deuces sign a lot, and I've noticed a lot of our students are now doing the deuce sign, which that may be completely uncool, and they just do it to make me feel good. So I may not be as relevant as I think I am, and they just, I'm the emperor with no clothes on, and nobody's telling me. But they do seem to enjoy hanging out with me. I'm a big icy nerd, so students will go get ices, and they know I'm an icy nerd. I did go on a discipline a couple of years ago, because I use this word, and it's no disrespect, but in a funny way, I would tell people I'm a fat walrus. So I got tired of being a fat walrus, so I went on a lifestyle change, big discipline change, lost about 50 pounds. But I used to eat at Popeyes a lot. Well, what student doesn't like Popeyes? I mean, spicy chicken and mashed potatoes and gravy is amazing. So I kind of just stayed who I was, and then just figured out how I could not make me cool, but make me part of their life to where they would appreciate who I was without changing who I am. And I've learned, as you stay true to who you are identity-wise, those students are going to really, really cling to that or adapt to that. So I think that's probably been the biggest thing for me.
Now, of course, with a widening age gap, you would be dealing with, I'm assuming, with junior highs, overseeing 12, 13-year-olds. So, some would perceive a big age gap as a disadvantage. Of course, there's pros and cons. I think there's advantages to being further along in life, married with kids. You almost become a picture of what life can be to all these young students. So I guess in your view, just maybe a brief comment at least, do you view your age as more of an advantage or as a disadvantage? Just comment on that.
I would say in certain scenarios, it's a big disadvantage. I'll use lock-ins as an example. I hate lock-ins with a passion. Fortunately, our junior high coordinator is an amazing guy. His name is Garen Stanley. He and his wife, Barbara, they are unbelievable leaders. So they love lock-ins. So junior high loves them because they love lock-ins. I don't do those things. Those are, a disadvantage for me. Probably the advantages of it is they can look to see that I'm not an idiot. I do have some experience that I can help them through, walk them through those ideas. So those are benefits. I think overall, the age gap is a big benefit from the perspective of I still kind of can get on their level. I'm not that old yet, but they can look to me as someone that they still trust. And I'll use a personal example. When I was in college, I had a huge life decision for it was really a major defining moment in my life. And I didn't go to my peers. I didn't go to my parents. I went to a gentleman that was much older than I was, but had also kept himself relatable to me. And so I trusted him, and I went to him for advice, even though he was much older. So the age gap there was massive. I mean, he could be my dad as far as that, but he was more of a respected icon in my life, and that was a huge difference for me there. So I think the benefit for my age gap is to recognize that they're looking not for a yes person, but they're looking for an answer, and to allow that age to give them the answer that they're seeking.
That's beautiful. Awesome. You just mentioned briefly a bit ago, as you're coming to a close, is that something that's official, that is a transition that's happening in your life? Is that something you're even able to comment on here on the podcast?
Yeah, I don't know that it's official. I think anyone that can read between the lines, there's no obvious timeline that I have right now, but I'm definitely on the backside of the mountain, which is a little, I didn't figure I'd ever struggle with it, but I have, because, and I'm looking forward to the future, because of, I think, the area how I'll be able to evolve here in our local church, and how great our church is kingdom minded. I can definitely see that there will be a smooth transition where I'll still be involved heavily in their life, which is extremely rewarding to me. But yeah, it's been a struggle. There's not a certain date, but it'll be sooner rather than later. And I don't know if I'm happy about it, completely happy about it. So I'll still probably show up at a retreat and annoy people. Yeah. I still probably attend some youth camps. You said it earlier, I'm a big kid at heart, and I love to have fun.
That's a good problem to not want to leave. I guess that's better than not being able to wait to get out. So good problem. A couple more questions, and I'm really enjoying hearing your thoughts on some of these things. I think one of the enemies of being successful in youth ministry is viewing youth ministry as a stepping stone to quote unquote real ministry. I guess maybe for somebody that views it as that, is there anything that you would say to a person like that? Any comments that you would share off the top of your head?
Yeah, you cut out just for a second there, but I think I can speak from both perspectives, because originally I didn't want to do student ministry, and I did look at it as a stepping stone. I didn't appreciate it from the perspective I do now. I guess, 14, 15 years ago, I would have looked at it, at someone doing student ministry, oh, they're just a stepping stone to where their next point is. So, which may have been why I didn't want to do it, because I felt in the long run that I would pastor. I knew what God had placed in my life, and maybe I had a skewed perspective that leading students is pastoring them. So I would encourage people that are looking into student ministry or are leading students currently, you're a major, major voice in their life. Even if you're not assigned a title of pastor, I'm not a titles guy, so let's wash titles out of the picture. I don't think when I get to heaven, God is going to look at me and say, oh, great, come on up here, Pastor Andrew. So I'm not a titles guy. You are a shepherd in their life. And go study, we don't have time today, Matt, but go study what shepherd means. I think we've miscontorted in today's world what a shepherd is. You're a shepherd in their life. And I take that really personal, which may be another reason why I'm struggling with transitioning. It'd be really bad if I wasn't going to remain here at POA, because I just couldn't remove myself from these people's life because I've shepherded them so long. And fortunately, Pastor Anthony is unbelievable and has given me the room to do that, extremely kingdom-minded, and has allowed me to grow. But you're a shepherd in their life, and my discipline in life, one of my disciplines in life is when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is read the scripture, and then I seek God, and I'm constantly seeking God for the students that I'm shepherding. And they're almost like kids to me. I'm now a dad with a 5-year-old and a 3-month-old. But all these students are like my kids, and I really think I would do just about anything for most of them. Now, some of them, Matt, you'll appreciate this, we wouldn't do anything for, but most of them, they're mine, and I'll fight anybody for them. But again, that's my personality. I'm very passionate, and I love them. And I think they would tell you that, even though I'm 37.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple more questions here. Has there ever been a moment over the past 13 years where you felt an urge to, hang it up? It's like, oh, well, now I'm 30, or now I'm 35, or, and you felt that desire or some sort of a shift in your spirit. And I guess what kept you planted there in youth ministry up to this point?
Yeah, I think my passion fuels me. So as far as hanging it up, that's never really been an option. You mentioned earlier a reference that I was youth president for Louisiana for 8 years. And I think at the conclusion of that, I kind of realized that, not that I was hanging it up. And Drew Galloway, our president now, is fantastic, great leader, and we had an amazing transition with him. But I think I did recognize that though I wasn't hanging it up, my influence was shifting. So, and it was a challenge. It was some questioning moments for me. Is, are you still connecting? Are you still relevant? Are you stagnant to them? So I did some assessing and did some studying on those subjects, and when it all came back to it, I still felt the assurance from Christ that this is where I'm supposed to be right now. And so I started talking to the people that matter in my life instead of listening to the voices that don't matter, literal voices or cultural voices that were saying, you're too old, you need to move on. I started listening to the voices that matter, and, the God voices, the pastor voices, and then the handful of friends that I have that speak into my life, which is very minimal intentionally. And those voices were speaking very clearly that I was still extremely effective in where God had placed me at that time. So I think that kind of not renewed, but it kept me at the pace that I like to go at, which is a high pace. The moment I think my pace is going to shift is probably when that timeline is speed up. But as far as being stagnant or not passionate about it. That I don't understand that. I know there's people that go through that, and I'm not being disrespectful of that, but that's never happened for me. So I don't know. I used to struggle personally, and if I'm going too long, you can interrupt me. I used to struggle personally, so this has kind of helped me. When I was younger, I would hear people say, God spoke to me and told me I was going to do this. Well, I have yet to hear God's audible voice in my life, so I would struggle with, am I called to this, or is God leading me here? And I learned through time and through talking with people how God speaks to me. And so I've never felt the absence of God to where I was stagnant. And I hope that doesn't mean, or I hope that doesn't offend someone, but while I've never always just been on a mountaintop, even when in my lowest of moments, there was still that, I guess, peace that passes understanding, or that reassurance that even though I wasn't running around, floating in the clouds, I was still extremely passionate about what God had done. Jeremiah, he kind of got set up in chapter 19. I've been studying Jeremiah, and it's a depressing book, but he came to the conclusion, I'm not talking any more about you. And then in 20, he gives the famous, it's like fire shut up in my bones. So I have had those moments. I don't want to discourage anybody and put out a cloud out there that I've just, always running at 1,000 miles an hour. I have had those moments where they're like, okay, God, you set me up for this and I'm done with you. And then, you come back to reality and you're like, I can't, I have to keep going.
No, I think that's going to be an encouragement, Andrew, too. Maybe somebody that has felt the urge to hang it up. And I will concur with you. In my personal experience, I've never felt a direct voice of God call moment, but I've always just had a desire to push my local church forward, to be involved in whatever capacity I was needed. And at this time in this season, it's youth ministry, and I'm excited to be here, and I'm thankful. But so just I'll end with one question, because you just mentioned you had a 3-month-old, excuse me.
It's miserable right now.
I don't even know. When you were kind of giving me some bio points, I had missed that. Congratulations on your second child.
Thank you.
Of course, I knew about Emma Claire, but yes, I can attest to the fact that having a 3-month-old can be miserable, and sleep is lacking, no doubt. But that kind of leads me into my question, because as a youth minister gets older, maybe they started out as a single young man or a single young lady, perhaps. Marriage typically does come, and then after marriage, kids come, and those things require a significant amount of time, rightfully so. So how do you personally make yourself available to your students? You talked about gaming already. You talked about shooting hoops. You talked about hitting home runs and all that kind of stuff, while still maintaining healthy marriage, strong parental relationship. Just comment on the balancing act, because the catalyst for this question is, as a youth pastor, sometimes I feel like in order to connect with students, you've got to be very available. So comment on that if you would.
Yep. So, and I think that's one of the things probably where I'm good or excel is from one perspective, I excel. From another perspective, schedules I like, but I'm not married to. So if the schedule changes, I'm not disappointed. With students, it's funny, we do, these huge planning things. They care less. You can let them know the night before or the day of, and they're ready to, to go at it. So, the whole constant change, right now changing, I love it. So, back to, I never did student ministry without Danielle. So I didn't get involved in student ministry, leading student ministry from a title perspective until I was married. Now, I was involved here at our local church as a single guy on our youth staff, leading from that perspective. But as far as making decisions, global vision, that kind of stuff, Danielle was always beside me. And so she is the perfect balance of my wild craziness. She brings me back to ground zero. I mean, if a student were to walk in right now, I'd probably say, "Hey, thanks, Matt, for having me. I'm going to get, something." But it is what it is, and they may. I keep waiting on somebody to barge in just because that's how they know who I am. But I think how I've tried over the last couple of years, though, to really balance my time, because my 5-year-old Emma Claire is amazing, and her and I have a lot of fun together. So that's taking time. I'm miserable because I'm not sleeping right now because of Grayson, but just holding her and seeing her smile. She smiles nonstop if she's not crying. As a dad and as a father, it's amazing. And then seeing Danielle be probably the most amazing mom ever, because she does so much. I have to give them time. So what I've tried to do is be very clear with the team that is helping me on the vision of where we're moving, and allowing them to spend time with the students and helping me fill those time gaps. Now, I do still carve out time with the students, but it's not nearly as much as I used to. So what I'm trying to do, and I mentioned the book earlier on The Vision by Michael Hyatt. There's an awesome quote in there. It says, "A good leader thinks in shades of gray, but speaks in black and white." So I've tried to start speaking in black and white, if that makes sense, but letting them lead in shades of gray. So I'm going to tell them where we're going, but as far as how we're going to get there, that's up to them. So they know student relationship is important to me. How they relate, go figure it out. And they may not like going and hitting baseballs, but they may like basket weaving. I drew a blank.
Pottery.
But I am, and the benefit, I guess, with the longevity, back to the longevity, the benefit is a lot of the team that is helping me now, early on, I'd spent so much time with them that they know I love them and I trust them. So I've kind of exampled to them, so they're doing it for them. I'll reference real quick just a young couple that's helping us now. Of course, with COVID, it's been extremely challenging. And to be frank, I don't think, I'll speak for myself, there's a lot of things that wish we could have done during the season. But I was speaking with I went and had supper with a young couple that were students, and now we're leading together, which is very rewarding. And as we were talking, they kept mentioning the meetings that they had been having with the students that were coming over to their house, that kind of stuff. And so I realized I'm speaking in black and white, but they're leading in the gray areas, which is a win for everybody. And then the other thing, Pastor Anthony has been, and I don't have to have brownie points with him, so I'm not saying this to build him up, but Pastor Anthony has been so supportive of our vision as a student ministry, to where it's provided me here. I'm in my office today, but if I wanted to leave right now and go spend time with the students, I could leave. My 5-year-old's in school. I'm blessed that I don't work a second job or an outside job. I hate to say full-time ministry, because anyone in student ministry is doing full-time ministry. You may just not be getting a paycheck from the church. So if you're in full-time ministry, you're just as important to me as somebody that's getting paid by the church versus paid by corporate world. But if I wanted to leave right now, which I'm lucky from that perspective, or fortunate, blessed, I could go spend time. I could go hit baseballs with a guy. He's in college, so I know his schedule. I could, hey, let's go hit, and he'd be up for it. Or I could go do an icy with the guy. Or we could go out. I'm a big hunter. I love the outdoors. We could go out to my hunting lease and spend time. I just texted a guy earlier. Thursday's bow season, opening day here. So we were talking about a student. We were talking about opening day of season. So Pastor has allowed me office time, especially over the last few years, as my life has become more cluttered in a good way with family, to take my office time and increase the kingdom through, spending time with students. So if you're a pastor listening, please allow your leaders the time to to spend with students, because they do need the time to spend with their family, because if you're happy at home, then you'll be happy everywhere.
That's a great answer, and very thorough and very very helpful. Andrew, it has been an absolute thrill to have you on the podcast today, and just your insight, your commentary has been so helpful, and I know it's been a blessing. And to everybody here that has been watching, I know you appreciate it as well. And I'll give you the opportunity to just close us out and say goodbye, and then I'll wrap up this podcast. Andrew, just a closing greeting, salutation, I guess.
Yeah, Matt, it's been super. Thanks. It's so good to see you, man. I will say that I can't put enough value on everyone that's watching or listening, the value they have in student ministry. And as a 13-year vet, 13 years ago, I would have appreciated someone saying they believed in me and that they were proud of me, because I felt like I didn't have a clue of what I was doing. So I know you don't know me, and I probably have never seen you, and I wish I could get to meet you. But if you're watching or listening, please, as a 13-year vet, I believe in you as a person, because God's called you. And if God called you, then I better believe you. I better believe in you as a person. And I'm extremely proud of you accepting what God has asked you to do, and the struggle that's going to come, the reward that's going to come, all the different things that's going to happen. Just please, please, please remember how valuable you are as a student minister leading students. My 5-year-old needs your leadership. My 3-month-old needs your leadership. So please, I believe in you, and I'm proud of the work that you're doing for the kingdom of God. So hopefully that'll encourage you today. And I don't know if they're going to share my information, Matt. I don't know if y'all are going to do that, but you can email me. I don't do social media. You can inbox me. I do have the platforms, but I rarely get on them. But if you have questions, I'll entertain anybody's question. I love talking about this stuff. I don't know everything. You probably have something I could learn from. So even though I'm on the backside, I'd still like to learn from you. But hey, Matt, again, thanks, buddy. You're an awesome guy. You and your family. I love y'all's family so much. I wish you lived in Louisiana, and I'd buy you an icy.
And maybe we could do a crawfish boil too sometime if it was the right season.
Absolutely,
guys.
Standing open invitation.
I'll keep you to that. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in today to the Youth Ministries podcast. We hope you have a great day. God bless.